Hey everyone. So it's February. So I know I think I mentioned in a video that I wasn't wearing my headset for a while because my computer speaker, microphone, fixed itself, um, and how that was due to energy. And it's kind of ironic because I just went through like 3 days of doing intense energy work with some other people, other psychics, and it's been pretty nice and quiet out around where I live, but then the last couple of days, there's been a lot of noise, and so right now there's even, you may hear noise in the background, I'm not sure, but they're doing construction work outside right behind me, and the neighbors were just using a bandsaw in their basement. Next door, we share a wall, and it's just like crazy. It's kind of like synchronicity, but when you do a lot of energy work, sometimes there will be a lot of built up energy, and things will kind of try and get in the way. It's one way I've heard people refer to it is running into energy, and so there seems to be a lot of resistance towards this like new level of energy that I'm starting to work with, on a deeper level, at least. So, anyways, it kind of relates to what I was saying last month about for January 2021 about how there's this claustrophobic kind of feeling, and I think everybody, well, maybe not everyone, but I think most people can relate to the idea that last month there was a lot of just like almost like the walls are closing in on you. Just I didn't feel like I had much time to do anything. In fact, I'm still behind on making the February reading videos. I'm just making it now, and it's February 2nd already. Just haven't had time. There's just been too much stuff scrunched together. So I'm still dealing with that, recovering from that, I guess you could say. Um, so I did say, like in December, for the December reading, how the energy was kind of starting to calm down. And January was a continuation of that. And I'm not saying it was completely calm or anything. Of course, there was crazy stuff that happened, and it's a crazy time to be alive. But what I mean by that is, most of 2020, things were just like building up and building up and building up. And now that things kind of built up and they reached this turning point in December, things are starting to kind of slow down and slow down and slow down. And sure, it isn't like completely calm, but it is getting more and more like that. And for December and January, I kind of saw as being about the same as far as calmness energetically. However that plays out in the world, maybe that's just how you feel on an individual basis. And January, I'm really seeing it starting to calm down even more so than December and January. February, it's starting to calm down more so than January, December, and January. And so I really think there's this cooling off effect going on. But at the same time, I'm also noticing this, if you want to call it ascension, or this energy shift that is becoming a higher frequency. Things are definitely changing. Things are moving in the direction of, well, cooperation and more awareness and being able to see through all the BS. It's kind of funny because people talked about 2020 being the year of 2020 vision and like things becoming more clear, and on some level I disagree, and on some level I agree, but the way that I disagree is because it was actually the year of cleansing stuff out of the way before we can actually have that clear vision. But at the same time, I agree because it's the first step towards having that clear vision. And I feel like now, as of February, the energy is really shifting and people are really starting to actually have that clear vision that we've been working through for most of 2020. So let me go ahead and get into what I saw for 2021 February. And what was coming to me was a picture of somebody throwing like their paper that they wrote all their notes on in the trash. And what this signifies is all the old plans that people have been holding on to, all the dysfunctional, hopes and dreams that just aren't really up to date. They aren't current with where people are at. They're, not really in alignment with their spirit. And so I'm seeing a lot of this like stubbornness that people were kind of like, no, I want this. And people letting that go and throwing it in the trash and just being like, you know what, whatever. I don't need it to be like that. It can be different. Um, and it's really creating this fresh perspective, kind of like what I was saying, the 2020 vision. People are able to see things more clearly from this new sense of freedom, if you will. And I think, well, last month I also said for January that there was this sense of identity that was shifting, and people were kind of shedding their skin, so to speak, of their old ways and kind of their old thinking. And I'm seeing that again for sure in February, but on a much more clear level where it's like it's really happening and people are like really shifting like significantly and people are coming together. I saw it as people coming out of their house where they're kind of inside their homes with their own possessions, their own things, their own ways of thinking, their own books, philosophies, whatever it may be, their own objects that they own that kind of keep them in their box, so to speak. I see people looking out the window and going out and deciding to kind of see what else is out there and connect on a level where all these old, outdated ideas about how things should be are no longer serving them and they're no longer bound to them. And there's just this sense of lightness, and that's how I'm feeling it, like energetically, this sense of lightness and almost like ascension. I would say it is ascension, if you want to use that word, although that word can mean different things to different people, but for me it just simply means the vibe is increasing and there's more of a connection to spirit, more of a connection to inner knowingness, more of a connection to the truth rather than being kind of muddied down, having your vision, your clarity muddied down by all these other things that are not really true. And you could say that's kind of what clairvoyance is the sense of being able to see things more for what they really are. And I think we're collectively, as a human race, taking a step in our clairvoyant abilities. Even if we wouldn't necessarily call ourselves clairvoyants, we're still taking the step in having a more clear vision of reality, if that makes sense. So, like I said, there's this sense of stubbornness, people really kind of clinging to things that are now being let go of. And there's this newfound sense of having faith in other people and kind of letting your guard down. and that really seems to be lit up for the month of February in particular. Within the world, when I was asking like what's going on in the world, I got this sense of there's an adjustment going on in the world politically, economically, etc. that kind of relates to exactly what's going on. Like there's such a big change going on that it just seems like this is all I can really talk about within the reading for the month of February. Sure, there might be other things going on, but this is like just this is the big deal. And so things are adjusting so much, and it's like there's this sense that people are kind of pausing. I mean, like countries and like politics and whatever, things are still happening. There's still chaos going on in the world, but it's like coming to like the power behind it is like dissipating. Even though it's still continuing on, but like the power behind it that's pushing it is like dissipating, so it's not as forceful, at least, but it's still there. So it's not like things are not so black and white. It's not like we're just gonna wake up and everything's just like world peace. That's not what I'm saying. But there is this sense of preparing for this adjustment, and like things are changing, things are shifting, people's interests are shifting, people's priorities are shifting, and this affects the politics. I mean, like politicians' priorities are changing. And I'm not talking about U.S. politics or the election or anything like that. I'm talking about on a bigger scale of what's going on. And so there's kind of like this pause where whatever's happening is continuing to happen, and people, it's like they're in a chess game, and it's like they're taking a moment to kind of like sit back and like look at the board and try and figure out what they're doing. And it's because they're starting to realize that the old ways that were working for them are no longer really valid anymore. It's kind of outdated, so it's not really doesn't make sense for them to use the same strategy. Everybody's coming to the realization that everybody else is changing, and they're starting to notice that within everyone around them. And they're starting to be like, well, if everybody else seems to be changing, maybe I should change and create like a different level of unity. Everybody's connected in a different sort of way, through different means, through different policies, through different a different type of economy, etc., whatever that may be, however that may manifest. So I do see big future changes coming, not in February, but February is kind of like the waiting period, like the waiting room for like all this crazy stuff. Although I think that the waiting could still go into March, could take a couple months at least, maybe more, before like things really start to lift off, and then it's just like things will be so different in the future, is what I'm saying. So right now, I think a lot of politicians around the world are confused what to do, how to go about their next step, and there's this sense of confusion and almost discontent, like almost like a depression among world leaders. They kind of have to look at themselves in the mirror and, you know, reevaluate themselves and what's going on, and there's a lot of self-doubt because of this, as far as, you know, politicians, and possibly I think this could extend into people's careers and future life choices, like life direction in general. There's a lot of shifts, so there can be a lot of discontent where people are at because they have to reevaluate all of that, and so a lot of their dreams, like again, like what I was saying at the very beginning with people throwing their notes in the trash, and their notes were kind of like their dreams or whatever they were holding on to or whatever they really wanted out of life. So that's the general energy for February that I'm seeing. Of course, there's a lot of energy stimulated around me, so I didn't really go too far into depth here. So I may make a second video going more into depth into February, or I may just not have time to. um, there is still that sense of kind of claustrophobic energy carrying into February from January that I was talking about in the January reading. However, I do also see that definitely dissipating for February, and there not being so much, like people will feel like they have more of their own personal space again in general. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. If you're interested in learning to tune into your own psychic abilities, I have a Patreon page where you can take a course on how to develop that, and you can ask questions and I will reply, and there will also be a chance to have a personal reading where I will read you and have a one-on-one session to see where you're at energetically, what is kind of blocking you from your psychic abilities, and how you're learning the things that I'm teaching, and what you can do better, and just general advice to help you along the way to allow you to open up more to your sensitivity to energy and inherent psychic ability that we all have. So don't be worried that somebody doesn't have it. Everybody has it. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.